Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Tuesday edition of On Cue, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM, the Game Remote Studios. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We got 2 hours to play with on as what turned out to be a just absolutely frigid, nasty, cold Tuesday in late January 2026, the 20th. Hope everyone had a good Sports Monday. You're enjoying your Tuesday. As I mentioned, very easy to get involved in the conversation in the show. You can check us out on YouTube, of course, Rumble, Kicks, SR 1029 FM, the Game. If you go to the website, Coastal Sports Digital Network, and you search the AUDACY app, you download it, and you can certainly find us Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. As always, get social with me at Rich Q on Q on X, on TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. And we got a busy show. Obviously, a lot of football to get into. National championship game has come, and it is now gone. The savior was introduced by the New York Football Giants. That, of course, is John Harbaugh. You got Robert Saleh and the Titans with a flirtation going on right now. So a lot of the NFL taking center stage on what's turned out to be another very busy Tuesday in the world of sports. And Indiana last night, we'll get into that to start things off. Indiana last night, capped off I guess you can say, not only a historic run for the ages, but you have to kind of dig deeper into Indiana's 27-21 win. It was a good game. It wasn't an all-time classic. I thought it was a good game. It was an entertaining game. But Indiana goes on and they defeat Miami last night 27-21 to win the college football playoff title game. Oh, by the way, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I would say that ultimately they were Indiana. Not a sexy team, kind of unloved, unwanted, the redheaded stepchild, if you will. They were a losing program and one of the losingest programs in the history of college football. And now I think they've kind of flipped the script and they turned college football upside down on their head. And it was an improbable run. 1984, BYU won pretty much by the way, an assuming crown, right? And now you've got Indiana, you've got Fernando Mendoza, you had a bunch of cast-offs that no one wanted making plays late in the game, and they, lock up for all intents and purposes, defensively make the stops when they have to against Miami last night. And to me, the most impressive, I don't even want to say stat, but I would have to say when you look at a game like this, and you look at a run that a team like Indiana, by the way, great run by Miami. I mean, just, unbelievable run by Miami. But when you look at what Indiana was able to do, you've got all the NIL stuff. You've got players moving left and right, 2,000 players in the transfer portal. You had a goofball of a head coach that basically decides, I'm going to leave a championship caliber, championship level team for another job in the middle of the battle, right? And I thought the game last night, I thought the playoffs themselves were entertaining, but I think ultimately college football as a whole prevailed because you got the underdog story. You've got not even really the David and Goliath. You just got the unsung heroes. You've got the, coming back into glory prominence in the Miami, the Hurricanes, and you had some really great storylines. I mean, think about this. Late in that game, Carson Beck, you might not like him, you might not like his game, but the kid's a gamer. The kid's a gamer, and he's gutsy. You got an opportunity. You're going in for the winning score. You got that late drive, and I mentioned some of these cast-offs. Jamari Sharp, who is a cornerback for Indiana, makes pretty much a unbelievable game-clinching interception on the last drive of the game. He grew up 20 minutes from Hard Rock Stadium. He's a Miami kid, and Miami wanted no parts of this kid back in 2022 when Cristobal took over. So now, fast forward 4 years later, and the Hurricanes driving for potential game-winning touchdown, win the national championship. Carson Beck's going to be a hero. They're going to build a statue. The U is back. Mike Garvin and the boys are going nuts. And then this kid makes an unbelievable play, right? You're playing cover 2 defense. He had the safety help over the top. Hey, don't worry about getting beat deep. And then what happens? Carson Beck throws that deep ball down the left sideline, and he kind of peeled under coverage, and here you go, game over. I mean, so you had a lot of that in spurts during this little run with the college football playoff, and it caps off an incredible season regarding Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman. It caps off an incredible season for Indiana, that coaching staff, and it was a very good, as I mentioned, game last night. Wasn't a great game. I don't think it was a great game. I thought it was a good game. It had drama, and I don't think anyone penciled in Indiana going 16-0. By the way, Costco, congrats to Costco. He said Indiana's winning it all. He said that months ago. So you got the national championship game for college football. So we put that in the books. You've got a lot going on in the NFL with not only the 2 conference championships. The savior, John Harbaugh, was introduced today as the Giants' new head coach. And listen, I watched the presser. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I wasn't giddy. I'm not going to tell you I wasn't fired up. But when Harbaugh's sitting up there and he's telling a story about how his father said, no, it's not the Giants, it's the New York Football Giants. Yeah, I got a little, here we go. Here we go, right? And, he's introduced on the day, the anniversary, when the Giants had that incredible run and win on the road in frigid temperatures in the 2007-2008 NFC Championship game against Green Bay. So everything's coming full circle, right? And looking up roses or blue, if you will, if you're a Giants fan. And I'm excited. I'm pumped. I really am. And I think that, they're showing good faith. The Giants are, the brass, give them control. I'm fine with it. Listen, I'm fine with it. And Ian O'Connell, like I said, has done a fantastic job reporting. He said that the Giants made it clear very early in the process that the money for John Harbaugh and the staff would not be an issue. And the Giants showed good faith, right? So now you're talking 18 plus million a year, 1 year, 13 million north of Daboll, moved that they moved to move from there to 20 plus bonuses. And again, they're telling you, we want to go all in here. And I didn't think really, I watched the presser and listen, you're celebrating his hire. I don't think you really need to get into what didn't work out in Baltimore. Maybe a question of what do you think you can do different, but not about the ouster, right? It's about him enjoying that moment. And I think now you are going to put together and assemble a very good coaching staff. Now, you still need the players on the field on Sunday. But I believe, again, it's a big-time move. And now with McDermott out in Buffalo, Robert Saleh might be taking the job in Tennessee. You got the Raiders still looking for a head coach. You've got Baltimore looking for a head coach. You got Cleveland looking for a head coach. You got Atlanta looking for a head coach. It's going to be fascinating to see what some of these organizations do, because I still believe, even though they've been a poorly run franchise over the last 10 to 15 years, it's still the coup de grace to coach New York Football Giants. It really is. Like you're not looking at this and saying it's the Raiders or it's the Arizona Cardinals or it's the Cleveland Browns. It's a friggin' New York Football Giants. Now you got to produce a winner. That's it. You have to produce a winner. And a lot of these franchises kind of piggyback and carry over from yesterday's conversation regarding Sean McDermott. Sometimes when these coaches fail, and it's usually more times than not, we put it on the coaches, but we also fail to look at the coaching staffs. We fail to look at the players that they brought in. We fail to look at the players that they drafted or they gave up on, cut, released, signed, moved. And I think for Harbaugh, it just ran its course. And he said all the right things. And again, he's turning around and he's thanking Baltimore. It was a hell of a run. And Joe Shane and Harbaugh both can kind of downplay the reporting structure. I know they're going to sit there and say that it is kind of overblown, but it's always worth watching, especially when an alpha male like John Harbaugh. And I think this team is going to be uberly aggressive when it comes to free agency. I know that they have holes to fill. I know they got to clean up the defense. I get it. They have to fix the kicking game. They got to bring in another weapon. So, again, the changing of the guard has begun. And I think it's going to be and make for a fascinating NFC East going forward, which kind of leads me into this. If you look at the landscape right now, in the NFC East. And I mentioned this probably in August, then during the season, then the latter parts of the season. And it's right here on the YouTube channel with all the shows on demand. I felt that if Baltimore didn't make the playoffs and Lamar struggled a little bit and there was going to be that rift, we knew John Harbaugh was going to be out. I still believe the Baltimore Ravens quietly shop Lamar Jackson. I also believe that the Philadelphia Eagles will quietly shop A.J. Brown, and it's not shocking to me. It wouldn't be. It's not oven mitts, as we like to say. But I also feel as though this might be the last season for Jalen Hurts. Next year, coming up, might be the last season for Jalen Hurts. I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles, the fact that the unwillingness to criticize the franchise quarterback, I'm not saying publicly, but just kind of hold him accountable, is drawing a rift in that locker room, within that building, and it's rubbing people the wrong way. Then you look at the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott. Then you look at Washington getting rid of their coordinators and Jaden Daniels. So I mentioned Lamar only because you take Lamar out of the AFC. Maybe you stick him in the NFC. I'm not seeing it. I think he's going to stay in the AFC. But I just felt if there was already going to be friction, if there was going to be a rift, if there's going to be a divide, it was perfect time to get rid of Harbaugh. And one man's trash is another man's treasure. So for me, it fell into the Giants' lap. That's the reason I brought up that connection with Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, because more times than not, the coach is going to go first. Now, second point on the NFC East that I've just alluded to, it is going to be a changing of the guard. It really is. And I don't care who the Philadelphia Eagles bring in as offensive coordinator. I really don't. To me, it does not matter. I've seen enough to know right now that, Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. Jalen Hurts is going to drive you crazy. Jalen Hurts is going to frustrate the hell out of you. But I believe that the league is kind of catching up to Jalen Hurts. They're kind of catching up to the Philadelphia Eagles. They kind of know that Barkley was the catalyst. Barkley was the one-man band. Barkley running for 2,000 yards. Barkley was, the tone setter, and now he's getting older. And you're crowding the box. You're stacking the line, right? You're stacking the box. You're making him try to do something he can't do at this point of his career. That's all. And that's okay. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are on borrowed time. The Washington Commanders, they obviously are an older team. They got to fix their defense. You're going to need a healthy Jaden Daniels. And then the Dallas Cowboys are already in flux. Which tells me right now that if the Giants do this the right way, they can turn it around fairly fast. That's all I'm saying. They can turn it around fairly quick. I'm not going to sit there in a New England type of turnaround, winning 2, 3, 4 games, then turning around and winning 11, 12, 13 games. I think it's going to take a little bit of time because ultimately you still need the pieces in place. But I love what I heard today. I'm fired up. I really am. It's going to be fascinating to see the NFC East. Is it going to be as good as, say, a division like the NFC North? I don't think so. Is it going to be as competitive like an AFC West? I think it could be. Can it get back to that credibility? Can it get back to that little cachet, a little juice that we saw 15, 20, 20 plus years ago? Why not? Why not? I mean, you're bringing a guy like Harbaugh, you got instant credibility to that franchise and that division right now because, let's be honest, he's the best coach in the division. but you got to build around that. So I don't have these illusions that 4-13 flips to 13-4, but I can see 4-13, 7-10, 8-9. Maybe you squeeze out 9 wins. Maybe you're right there late in the season for a potential playoff spot. But it started with the hire and it followed through with the presser today, saying all the right things, getting people giddy, getting people juiced, getting people jacked up, fired up, and here we go. Because you look around this division right now, and the Cowboys will win you their 8, 9, 10 games, but what are they doing in the playoffs? Washington kind of emptied the chamber last year, fell back down to earth this season, and then you got the Philadelphia Eagles who get bounced in the wild card round to a team they had no business losing to. And now there's talk, do we have the quarterback going forward? What are we going to do with our offense? Our running back's getting older. Oh, by the way, our diva wide receiver, what the hell are we going to do with him? Because he's going to get moved. He is definitely going to get moved. The Philadelphia Eagles will try their damnedest to move A.J. Brown. All right, 17 past 4 o'clock hour, cranking it up on a Tuesday edition of On Cue. Don't forget, we are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 3 Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Also, Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. The Deptford store, 1450 Clements Ridge Road. They'll give you cash on the spot for your merchandise as well, store credit, if need be. We'll get to some of your comments. You guys can connect with me on social media, the YouTube channel. We're up and running. Kicks, Rumble, X, SR1029 FM, the Game Coastal Sports Digital Network, part of the AUDACY family, LinkedIn as well. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We're just cranking up on a Tuesday, 20 past the 4 o'clock hour. Keep it locked in on a Tuesday edition of On Cue with Rich Quinones. All right, welcome back. 20 past 4 o'clock hour, Tuesday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Check them out online. Fresh Roasted Coffee. Use the promo code BYP20. You might want to use it on a day like today. I mean, the weather is just absolutely just brutal. By the way, the hot toddy time with the take of the day, I'm going to give you it now, and then we'll recapture it and repeat it in the 5 o'clock hour. But here you go. Hot take of the day right now. Josh Allen will never, ever, ever win a Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen's stock has dropped big time. I really do. And I know Bill's Mafia doesn't want to hear this. Like, I threw it out there. Some of the quarterbacks that we've been talking about, the, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, like out of those three quarterbacks, because I feel as though those three, they're constantly under the microscope because of the success that Patrick Mahomes has had over the course of the last decade. Out of those quarterbacks, who's winning a Super Bowl first? Now, Joe Burrow got to a Super Bowl. They lost to the Rams. But again, you've got Josh Allen. You've got a lot of drama going on with the Buffalo Bills. And when I say Josh Allen's never winning a Super Bowl, I just think Josh Allen is a product of his environment, and it's not good. It's not for the better. Because Buffalo can't get out of their own way. Like, there's dysfunction. You can be extremely successful, but yet there can still be dysfunction. And it just baffles me how the GM keeps his job and gets elevated and promoted, but the head coach, who's won a lot of games, granted, he's only 500 in the playoffs, 8-8, he gets jettisoned. And I think you make a move like that, you better damn hope that you have a viable candidate to replace. That's the thing. You make a move like that, who you bringing in better than Ian O'Connell? It's not like getting rid of, a past his time Pete Carroll, no disrespect to Pete C. It's not like getting rid of a Daves. It's not like getting rid of a Jonathan Gannon or a Kevin Stefanski. You're talking about a head coach that has won consistently in Buffalo. And yet, you decide after another playoff debacle, and it seems as though by all accounts, there was a power struggle. It seems by all accounts, Sean McDermott did not like the fact that the roster was not constructed the way it should be constructed. I mean, that's, and everyone's sitting here saying it's a questionable fire, the timing of the fire. It was a contentious kind of meaning revealed, and maybe it didn't sit well with the building. Who knows? Like, every time a coach gets fired, or it is a shocking development, or it's a move that comes across as surprising and not pleasantly surprising, like, wow, I can't believe they decided to go in this direction. There's always a conversation of, well, wait a second, what happened? Why did it come down to this? What led to this point? And something had to just go sideways, right? So McDermott's fired on Monday. This is 2 days after the Bills lost to the Broncos to end their season. And 5 weeks after the then head coach wanted the general manager, by multiple reports, Brandon Beane and owner Terry Pegula, to talk about the roster deficiencies. And now you're saying in the middle of the season, we're not good enough to win because the roster is not good because the GM didn't draft the right players. So apparently, again, WGRZ is reporting that McDermott pointed out what the roster lacked to win a Super Bowl. And probably his tone, the way he said it, his verbiage, maybe it came off and it rubbed the GM, and maybe it also rubbed the owner the wrong way, or they weren't happy with their assessment. And think about it. You're at a job and you are the supervisor. You report to the manager who reports to the owner. So the manager and the owner, they're the two guys that you answer to. So now all of a sudden I'm sitting here and I'm going to the manager and I'm going to the owner. I got to be honest. You want to know why we're not making sales? We don't have the right salespeople. We don't have the right product in stock. This is why we're not making money. Here's some of the deficiencies. That's probably how it went down in Buffalo with McDermott. Now, again, I'm just kind of I'm throwing out different verbiages for you guys. But I can see that happening, and it didn't sit well. And then they're probably thinking to themselves, once McDermott leaves the room, well, he's got a lot to say. He's He's flapping his gums. He's running his mouth. He better win some friggin' playoff games. This is the roster we gave him. He's got to deal with it. And then what happens? They lose to Denver in heartbreaking fashion. And oh, by the way, it's still on the quarterback too, because he doesn't take a hit. He doesn't get a pass. Josh Allen's stock has to take a hit. Has to take a hit. So now you've got that dynamic. And anytime you have a GM and a head coach and an owner and they're not on the same page, they're not seeing eye to eye, that is a problem. That is a problem. It really is. Now, I'm not going to tell you that the Bills will be better off with Sean McDermott. They were very consistent with Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott led the Bills to the playoffs 8 of 9 seasons. And listen, I felt like the last several years in August, we always say it's Super Bowl or bust for the Buffalo Bills. Now, they were never able to really get over that Patrick Mahomes hump because Kansas City pretty much took care of them like the Bulls used to take care of my Knicks. The Chiefs turn around, they eliminate Buffalo 4 of 5 seasons from 2020 to 2024. They never figured out a way to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, never figured out a way to beat them consistently, never figured out a way to beat them in a big spot, and never able to find a way to get to the AFC Championship, ultimately win it, and get to the Super Bowl and have an opportunity to win it. Now, they've had talent. Don't get me wrong, right? Now, they lack a top receiver. I think we can agree. You lose a guy like Diggs, okay, fine, but you still have James Cook and you still have Josh Allen. You've got some weapons, period. You've got some weapons. And the irony is being traded to number 28 overall pick, pardon me, in the 2024 draft to the Chiefs, who drafted Xavier Worthy. And then, boom, who do they take? Coleman, right? Who's a bust. Can't catch cold. So you've got, the Titans now, the Dolphins, the Falcons, the Giants. They've all filled their head coaching vacancies, right? They've all filled their spots. And Robert Saleh, as I mentioned, looks like it's a done deal with the Titans. You got the Cardinals, the Browns, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Ravens, still possibilities. So the Bills miss out on Harbaugh. He lands with the Giants. Kevin Stefanski goes to the Falcons. Now it's kind of pick of the litter. So I guess the point is, if you're Buffalo, was the move to fire Sean McDermott, do you believe there is a better head coaching candidate out there? Or was the GM and the owner, were they just kind of pissed off because ego is everything in life, especially when it comes to the world of sports? Nobody likes being told what to do. Nobody likes when someone's questioning their decision-making in any walk of life. So McDermott's there with those two. They're having a powwow. They're talking about the roster, and McDermott pushes back and basically says in so many words, hey, man, I can't win with this roster. Oh, by the way, direct shot at you for drafting these guys and you signing off on those moves. I leave the building now. I get in my car. I drive home to see the family. GM and the owner are sitting there saying, this guy's got a lot of balls. He's got some stones. He better win a friggin' playoff game. I don't care. No excuses. He's got an all-world, all-pro MVP quarterback, a franchise quarterback, a potential Hall of Fame quarterback, a hell of a running game, offensive line. We got some weapons. We got to do it this year. No Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes. Here we go. And he loses to Denver. And that was the final straw. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. But the Bills do this. The Bills make this move. They better damn well make sure they have somebody in line to replace Sean McDermott. Because if anything, this guy's winning 10, 11, 12 games a year and going to the playoffs. Now, granted, 8-8, 500 in the playoffs, I get it. But they also need to also take a look at the franchise quarterback. Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Seriously. Let's not sugarcoat it anymore with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a superb talent. He is. Josh Allen is a franchise quarterback. Josh Allen is trending like he is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. But the knock, and it's grown pretty fair, is that Josh Allen can't get over the hump. And he can't win the big one, right? Kevin chimes in. Q, how much stock and take do you think that Chris Mara had in this move for Harbaugh? I think Mara, and John Mara going through everything that he's going through, Mr. Mara, I think they made a full court press. I really do. I think they made a full court press. I think Joe Shane did the right thing by submitting a little bit, sticking the ego at the door, understanding with the right head coach and the coaching staff, they'll win football games, which means if I'm a GM, my job is secure because all I'm doing is winning. And then Mara comes in, has that conversation with Mr. Mara, has that conversation with John. Got to do everything we can in this power to get this guy instant credibility, chops, here we go, bravado. Give the fan base something that they're yearning for, pay him whatever the hell he wants, and if we have to give him a little more power, so be it. I think it was a collective effort, right? And if you listen to Chris Mara talk about the reporting structure, if they're comfortable with it, the fans got to be comfortable with it, right? And I think there were concessions made because it's John Harbaugh. You're talking about a franchise that did, a franchise that has always been set on their ways for 100 years. And now you have this hire of this magnitude with this man, then guess what? You're going to bend a little bit. You're going to make some concessions. You just have to, because you have to think the long game, long term. He might be sitting on those sidelines at MetLife for the next 10 years. And they're winning 10, 11, 12 games and going to the playoffs and maybe, God willing, winning another Super Bowl or two. So if you have to submit and give them a little power to get that done, do it. Absolutely do it. I have no problem with it. Like everyone's getting, don't read into it too much. If you want to be the best, you got to hire the best, and you got to act the best, and you got to perform the best. Like it's just nature, man. It's just how it works in sports. And sometimes you do have to check the ego at the door. But in this case, that ego that's walking through that door, that is basically saying all the BS, enough is enough, we're running it our way. That's going to prove to be very fruitful for this franchise. That is just my opinion. That's all. It's just my opinion. Pat chimes in, Q, I'm a big time Bills fan. I never actually heard it broken down like that. I think you bring up a couple of really astute points. If there was a power structure and McDermott said what he said, then you're right. He probably leaves the building and they're thinking this guy better win. I believe that's exactly what happened. I believe to some extent, you guys are smart. You're football fans. You know it, right? Look, McDermott loved that job. McDermott loved Buffalo. McDermott laid down roots in Buffalo. He's a good guy. He's a very good head coach. But, the problem is it's an uphill battle when you're not liked or not respected, even though you're talented or you're good, and you have to fight the masses, meaning I got to prove to the GM and the owner that I can still coach. Well, all I've done is taken this franchise back to being a relevant franchise. All I've done is take this franchise back to winning football. All I've done is turn a wild card gunslinger, immature, green quarterback into a franchise-altering quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback, an MVP caliber quarterback, right? And that's not good enough. So yes, when the GM's job is to construct the roster to help the franchise quarterback, when he's not doing that, why am I taking the fall? And you're promoting him? So it does not make sense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they did Sean McDermott dirty. It's the NFL. It's a what have you done for me lately business. Sean McDermott's going to be fine. He will land on his feet. We talked about Harbaugh, right? And I'll tell you, man, ultimately, a guy like McDermott should land on his feet fast. Fast, if you think about it. Jay chimes in, Q, do you see that Coughlin ball? Your guy was absolutely over the top about Harbaugh. Yeah. When the Giants hired Tom Coughlin, I was like, okay, this is I was a Fossil fan. I was a Jimmy Fossil fan. Um, and everyone remembers, Jim Fossil's declaration. I believe they lost, maybe the Lions. They lost 3 out of 4. All my chips are in. This team will make the playoffs. Then they went on a run, and they got through the NFC, and they had a magical NFC championship where everything went white. Kerry Collins looked like a Hall of Fame quarterback. They shut out Minnesota. I mean, it was just one of the most just joyful games to ever watch as a Giant fan. The crowd, I mean, the stadium, you've never heard a stadium like that before if you were a Giant. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. And then obviously they get waxed by the Ravens in the Super Bowl. And, the knock on Fossil, and this was told to me by a very prominent player that played for the Giants on the offensive side of the ball. He told me that a week or so before the Super Bowl against the Ravens, they switched up their whole offensive scheme and alignment. And they were just beyond out of sync. And I'd never heard that story before. But again, Reeves departs in 96, okay? And they thought about bringing back Parcells. They decide to go to Fossil. And he's hired. And again, they had a nice little run. They had 2 bad seasons where they were 11-21. They finished in 2 seasons, 10-5-1. He was coach of the year, right? They had a horrible playoff loss. What else is new? In the rain against Minnesota. And then a couple years later, they make the run in 2000. So his legacy was, we had some very good wins, but the Giants also, just like under Coughlin, lost to inferior opponents. And everyone goes back 2002 postseason. The loss to the 49ers to this day still stings, 39-38. They were up 38-14 in the third quarter. After that, you felt that was pretty much it. And then 2023, they finished 4-12. He coached out, and here we go. So, the playoff guarantee was great at 7-4. And the run was great. And the whole recovery in 9/11, kudos. I mean, Jimmy Fossil, that guy has a special place in my heart. But when they brought in Coughlin, you kind of saw the no-nonsense kind of guy. And we saw what he was able to do with Jacksonville. And he turned that franchise around. And I think there were a lot of people that were skeptical about the Coughlin hire at the time. Because if you think about it, I think Coughlin, I'm going to say, was what? At the time, maybe 60-something years old. 2004-ish, 2003-ish. So they hired him in 2004. He was out of football 2003. And then obviously he makes the biggest move, 5-4, and they bench Kurt Warner and they go to Eli Manning, and the rest is history. Even though in 2007, they tried to run him out. But he brought the Giants back to respectability. But the Giants also would start seasons 5-3, 6-2, and then they would figure out a way to limp to the finish line, 9-7, 10-6. But they had a MO of losing some bad football games to teams they shouldn't have lost to. And again, as you try to milk Eli for the last couple of years, and they start to struggle through 2015 season, then you just kind of knew it was pretty much over. And when he resigned, we know he was pushed out. They haven't been able to have that credibility, that respect, that cachet since today. And I think a guy like Harbaugh brings it. Now, I say all that because if Tomlin was considered to kind of be the same level as Harbaugh and he's sitting out, Tomlin would have brought that cachet. Does McDermott bring that cachet to a Cleveland? Yeah. Does he bring that cachet to potentially in Arizona? Yeah. Does he bring that cachet to perhaps a Raiders team, even though I don't know why you'd think about going to the Raiders? Yeah, he does. He's a good head coach. And these franchises, everyone's saying, well, you got to get, you got to get the young guy, you got to get the young guy, you got to get the young guy. I don't necessarily agree with that all the time. I don't. I really don't. I think in this case, if you are Cleveland, if you are Baltimore, you go after Sean McDermott. If you're Pittsburgh, you go after Sean McDermott. He can coach. He can coach. But I also feel as though he just battled with the GM. He battled with the owner. And again, you're not going to win that battle. The GM's not losing. The owner is not losing. The head coach is going to be the guy that loses. I mean, the head coach is going to be the guy that loses. You and I both know it. Tom chimes in. Q, I know you're talking a little bit of the national championship game. Did you see Miss Danger last night? Yeah. What was ESPN thinking, by the way? Really? I mean, ESPN, Disney. Hello. Let's get the camera on a friggin' porn star, a Bella Danger. By the way, great nickname. But let's get her. Let's get shots on this girl. Yeah, ESPN, Disney, family friendly fun. Here we go. You're watching her with the teary rant, whatever. Yeah, I just, you know, whoever stuck that camera on him, whatever producer said, hey, that's the live shot we want, he's probably going to be revising his resume as we speak. I mean, you want to talk about cringeworthy. It's almost like listen to Ryan Clark the other day talking about sticking with CJ Stroud. Just wow. Yeah, let's stick to super fan and porn star Miss Danger. Let's have her as a breakout star. But yes, to answer your question, Tom, I did see that. I did. That's almost as bad. Well, it was bad, but did you notice the other day? And I'm so glad that I tweeted it out. Aikman and Buck brought it up. What kind of jackass parent in the New England and Texans game has their 6, 7 year old kid with no shirt on in those conditions? Like, what an ass. I mean, somewhere there were moms around the world in their Boston accents just losing their shit. And Joe turns around. Joe Buck says, "We good with the kid not wearing a shirt down there on a day like today." I mean, great effing parenting. My God, I would have called Dyfus right on the spot. But yes, I did. I did say that. Yeah, I did say that. Andrew chimes in. Q, did you see that Tomlin's BFF Jay Glazer says that the Steelers head coaching job isn't one of the best available? He says that the organization needs changes from top to bottom. Well, that's most likely leaked from him. I mean, Pittsburgh is a historic franchise, right? Is it not? I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers, that's a historic franchise. But if they don't spend, Pittsburgh's going to find out real fast what they had in Tomlin. Because as much as I've been critical of Mike Tomlin, the level of consistency, that's a very tough division. Cleveland eventually is going to be better. Baltimore still has Lamar Jackson, albeit, there might be some buzz with Lamar. Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, and then you got Pittsburgh. So they might find it very hard to win some football games. They might. And you got to bring the right head coach. And they've had a problem doing that. 4:45, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, 447, fast approaching the 5 o'clock hour. We talk a lot about the head coaching vacancies. There are still offensive coordinator openings right now in the NFL. I mean, obviously the Giants, the Eagles, Tennessee, I think the Chargers, Detroit's obviously off the board. Um, so, think about the Eagles and their quarterback situation and Jalen Hurts. The Giants right now, you believe that Harbaugh is going to bring over his guys, right? Todd Moinkin to work with Jackson Dart. And then I mentioned some of these other teams. So I think, as we kind of get a little more steady, and now you've got a couple days to kind of, peel back the curtain, right? And look at the landing spots and where some of these head coaches have landed. And once the dust settles with the season, and then we start to get into potential mock drafts, and then April, you'll start to see now, these offensive coordinator jobs, they're going to fill up fairly fast. I suspect they'll fill up even before the Super Bowl or immediately after the Super Bowl, because you want to get a jump. This is why teams, I always believe, if you're going to fire the head coach, fire him as soon as possible. Like, you don't need to wait. You can fire him after the game. You don't have to wait till Black Monday. You don't have to wait till after the holidays. Like, these guys are making millions of dollars. They'll be fine. I understand it's their livelihood. They will be fine at the end of the day, but you want to get a jump on everything else. You have to. You want to get a jump on everything else. And I think the Giants have a good nucleus. They've got some offensive players. The Philadelphia Eagles have offensive players. Dallas Cowboys still have offensive players. Washington's got some weapons. So it's going to be extremely interesting and fascinating. Take Don't Lie chimes in. Q, I think you're the only one I've heard over the last 24 to 48 hours actually criticize Josh Allen, and you make sense of it. I think his stock has dropped big time. I really do. I think his stock has dropped big time. Look, Josh Allen is a great quarterback, but the allure now, he's going to figure out a way to get it done when it matters the most. I think you have to start to question that. And it's not saying that he's not going to be this Hall of Fame quarterback. I just don't envision, I can't see a scenario where Josh Allen is taking the Buffalo Bills to a Super Bowl. I just don't. I can't see it. Glazer's reporting that Tomlin is done coaching and won't come out of retirement. Okay, well, that's good. Hey, that's good for Mike Tomlin. He had a hell of a run. Everyone can argue the semantics if he's a Hall of Fame head coach or not. He had a hell of a run. And like I said, that's kind of the difference between Harbaugh and Tomlin. I think when Tomlin's done, he's done. Harbaugh is just, I'm full go. I'm full go. That's John Harbaugh. Like, I want to get right back in there. Like, John Harbaugh is the kid that, 6 o'clock, you're playing on the blacktop. You're running ball. You're playing, right? Shirts and skins, and all of a sudden, you hear the whistle from across the street, like it's dinner time. All the kids get on their bike and they're, Harbaugh's staying. Harbaugh's like, dinner be damned, man. I'm going to be shooting free throws. I'm going to be doing sprints up and down the court when it's dark out. Then I'll jump on my bike and I'll go home and I'll grab something to eat, right? The last one off the field, the first one in the office, the last one out of the office. Like, he is a football rat. And I say that with adoration. Like, he's just a grinder. And a lot of those guys, they don't fall off the tree branch. They don't fall out of the sky. Those are guys that live for it. Tomlin, sure, he had passion for the game, but you just felt when Tomlin's personality and character to me was, yeah, when I'm done, I'm done. Yeah, I got the family, got the kids. I'm done. It was a great run. See ya. Maybe I'll go in the TV booth. I say some quirky things, a little charisma, a little charm. I can light it up on camera. That's not Harbaugh. The game's over. He's on the plane. He's looking at notes. He's looking at film. He gets home, kisses the wife. All right, I'll take a shower. I'll eat something when I'm done looking at the footage. When I'm done reviewing the game plan for next week. That's Harbaugh. And to me, said all the right thing. The guy loves football. I'm telling you, like, For everyone that has pushed back with my assertion or my opinion on the hire, Giant fans, let me just tell you that this is the perfect hire for the Giants. This is the guy they needed. And I believe there is a part of John Harbaugh that needed the New York Football Giants. Because Harbaugh's coming in, anytime you get fired, anytime you get fired from a job, it's someone's way of saying, we don't need you anymore. We can find someone out there better. It's like, look, you're in a relationship and it doesn't work out, right? And maybe the girl has eyes for someone else. She's looking for a better deal. She breaks your heart. You get depressed. You mope around a little bit. You wear your sweats for 13 straight days, which is never a healthy, good thing. We've all been there. Let's just be honest. But then you realize you wake up and you're like, hey, I got value. I got worth. Like, I'm going to stick it to her. I'm going to go on. I'm going to be productive. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to find my soulmate out there, right? I'm going to make right. I'm going to do good things. I'm going to enjoy my life. And if I run into her again, I hope I've got my current girl by my side. And if I don't, that's fine because I'm living my best life. You have that chip on your shoulder. You're not going to let someone kind of keep you down in that regard. Same thing in sports and in jobs. You get fired, you get kicked down. You feel as though you're not wanted, you're not appreciated. I didn't do the job good enough. They don't think I can do it anymore. What the hell? I gave them everything, my blood, my sweat, my tears, especially when you're an NFL head coach and you put everything into it. And when it doesn't work out, and when they turn around and say, we don't want you anymore, it's like, whoa, what about the last 15, 16, 17, 18 friggin' years? What about all those wins? What about all those divisional titles? Oh, by the way, what about that friggin' Lombardi trophy in the case? Now you don't want me? Now you got a chip on your shoulder. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to win. I'm going to take a young team. I'm going to restore order. I'm going to restore credibility. I'm going to shove it right back up your asses. That's Harbaugh. Like, that's the guy I want in the foxhole. That's the guy I want to go to battle with. That's my type of cat. You know, you're living, you're breathing. You got the passion for the game, and you know deep down that you can still do it. Like those great quarterbacks that we always sit there and say, man, they're trying to squeeze out a little bit more of their career. Maybe they got released. Maybe they got cut. Maybe they got traded. Maybe somebody looked at them and said they can't do it anymore. But yet they go somewhere else. They got a chip on their shoulder and they turn around and what do? They win. They put up numbers. They win games. They get back to the playoffs. They win championships. They got a chip on their shoulder. They're living, breathing, eating examples of guys that you want in the foxhole. To me, that is a guy like Harbaugh. I don't think that's a Tomlin kind of, I don't think Tomlin's that guy. I think when Tomlin's done, he's done. And by all accounts, it looks like he's done. Some guys are just built differently. That's all. They're just built differently. They look at things differently. They have a different view, a different perspective on things, a different perception, right? Because the optics now are with some of these head coaches that have been fired. Some of them are not going to get landing spots right away. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like Stefanski, landing spot. Harbaugh, landing spot. McDermott should land on his feet. Now you go back and you look at some of the guys that had horrible runs as head coaches. And what did they have to do? They had to basically rebuild their resume. They had to rebuild their body of work. And I'll give you the perfect example. Now, I didn't think he was a very good head coach, but I thought he was a hell of a coordinator, Robert Saleh. And Robert Saleh, made some mistakes with the Jets. Like Robert Saleh turned around and he cut his bones doing what? He cut his teeth doing what? He was with Seattle, then he was with Jacksonville. Then obviously he was a coordinator for a couple seasons with the 49ers. He was a hot coordinator, great defense. Here we go, Jets head coach. He was in over his head. And then the fact that he's Texan, with Benigno and all that stuff, and it blows up in his face, and the Rodgers stuff and the Hackett stuff, it did not work out. So what did he have to do? He had to go back and he had to eat a little humble pie. He had to rebuild the resume. He had to kind of go back to go forward. So he lands with Green Bay as an offensive consultant. Then he turns around as defensive coordinator with the 49ers. And look what they were able to do with all those injuries. Losing all those all-pro, all-world edge, rushers and tackles and linemen and linebacker and all that stuff. And he shows, hey, man, I can go back. I can home myself. First stint, Jets. Second stint, here we go. And he did a hell of a job. He did a hell of a job. And it's one of the reasons when you have a team that's top 10 or top 11 or 12 in points allowed, and you're the guy that's at the helm with all these injuries, and they still do that guy's got value. That guy's got value. So now Robert Saleh understands, well, I know what I'm doing this time around, right? I know what I'm doing because, again, when I was with the Jets, it was just kind of a dicey proposition, right? Go 2021, won a couple games, improved by 3 2022, and then the mistake by the ownership group, Woody Johnson, is they went all in for Aaron Rodgers, which I told you was going to be a mistake, and we know what happened after that. And all the other nonsense. And then, of course, the Zach Wilsons and the Mike Whites. It never worked out. Now you got a fresh start and a young quarterback and a team that played very hard down the stretch in the Titans. That's a good hire by the Tennessee Titans. They're not going to light the world on fire, but now you've got a young quarterback, okay? A very young quarterback. You have to fix that offensive line. You do have some playmakers on that Titans squad. You do. Pollard ran for 1,000 yards. They have a couple young wide receivers. They got to clean up that defense. They dealt with some injuries. Both quarterbacks got hurt. A couple of their wide receivers got hurt. They lost one of their guards. They lost one of their linebackers. They lost one of their safeties and corners. They got besieged by injuries as well. But now Saleh can kind of mold that defense the way he wants to mold it. So he's a guy that came up, made his bones really with the 49ers. That led him to get an opportunity with the Jets. It didn't work out, went back to the 49ers and was able to turn that defense around. And he now has an opportunity to be locked in for, say, 5, 6, 7 years with a young team in Tennessee. McDermott, I believe McDermott will land on his feet, pretty fast. I do. I honestly do. So the whole notion you gotta go young, you gotta go young. I don't necessarily subscribe to it. Sometimes I need a leader of men. I need someone that has shown they can win with consistency, and I need someone that's not going to tolerate the BS. Now, it's pretty evident in Buffalo that the fact that McDermott turns around during the season, mind you, during the season, and has a meeting with the GM and the owner, and he's pushing back on the roster building. He leaves that meeting, and I said in the 4:00 hour, damn well the GM and the owner are thinking to themselves, who the hell is this freaking guy to talk about the roster that we built? That's an indictment on me as a GM. That's an indictment on you as the owner for signing off. Well, this guy better win some playoff games. He didn't. They lost to Denver. They lost to Denver in heartbreaking fashion. It's not all his fault, but he's the head coach, and heads are going to roll. And when you have a GM and an owner that are lockstep and barrel, and they're looking at the head coach like, you know what, we don't need this guy anymore. 8-8 in the playoffs. We did everything we had to do. Thank you very much. Move on. He'll land on his feet. He will land on his feet. He will. Man with the good evening, folks. Michael with the Bronco ball. Let's ride. What do you think the Texans do about Stroud? I have no idea. I don't. He has regressed. He's regressed. Now, do you give up on him? And then he becomes another Baker Mayfield, another Sam Darnold, another retread that maybe bounces around for a year or two and then finally lands in a great spot? I mean, it goes back to this conversation or the argument that we've been talking about for years when it comes to the evaluation of the quarterback and how some of these quarterbacks are not evaluated properly, or the people evaluating them don't know what the hell they're doing. Can CJ Stroud play? Yeah. He can play. Does he make mistakes that, would frustrate the hell out of you? Yeah. The decision making, the carelessness of the football, kind of the loose change with the football. Not a fan of that. I'm really not. Like, he's got to clean that up. That to me would drive me batty. It would become very frustrating. And I can tell you this, I know teams that were led by their defenses, and all their offenses had to do was just basically not screw up. And when they screw up, that's when you start to get the defense and the offense divided. And you get the defense looking at the offense, you're not making plays. The offense sitting there saying, well, wait a second. It's not all on us. But the fact of the matter is, it is. And if you look at that offense of the Texans and you look at the poor play of CJ Stroud and the inability of the head coach to bench him, knowing that they needed a spark, knowing that the defense kept them in the game, I don't want to hear this, you can't bench him. That's a knee-jerk reaction. That's not good for his psyche. Come on, man. Stop. It's his third season in the NFL. He's not a rookie. Yeah, he's 24, but, were we saying this when he threw for 4,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 picks? I mean, the line actually did a better job this year. He was only sacked 23 times. So they actually kept him upright. But it's not coaching. It's not running the wrong route. It's not someone forgetting to pick up the blitz when the quarterback just can't hold on to the football. That's on the quarterback. Those are mistakes you can't allow. You just can't. You can't allow those mistakes. And he was leaking oil. He threw for 250 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But let's be honest, the offensive line didn't keep him upright. New England didn't keep him upright. But still, the fumbles, the picks, that was all on him. That's not because the line's collapsing. 4 interceptions, losing fumbles, that's a horrible performance. Throwing for just over 200 yards, 47 times, that's also coaching. Knowing that you're still in that game, you don't try to run the football. I mean, to me, it was a complete failure all around, from Ryans to the rushing attack, and then obviously the Stroud, because he did not play particularly well. And again, that's a young quarterback, right? It's a very young quarterback, but he's also a top 5 draft pick. So you're not going to give up on him just yet. Now, do you have to go out and maybe just decide what you're going to do with the offensive coordinator, or dumb down the offense a little bit? I don't know. We give up on these guys so fast. And then what happens? Look at Sam Darnold right now. All he saw was ghost in New York with the Jets. He had the great game, slinging it, debut against Detroit, long touchdown toss, and everyone was like, this guy's the real deal. Didn't work out. Bounced around. And now, after last year, you start to see Darnold is a good quarterback. Sam Darnold is a good starting quarterback. He is a high-level starting quarterback in the NFL. It's not even up for debate anymore. It's just not. And the thing is, Sam Darnold is only 28. CJ Stroud is 24. So let's go back a little bit. Sam Darnold's been in the NFL, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? Sam Darnold was 20 years old, right? Coming out of USC? Never had a chance. Never had a chance with the Jets. Bounced around with Carolina, San Francisco, Minnesota, and then now look at him. Maybe it takes a guy bouncing down like that, or maybe it takes just having a good coaching staff and belief. What if you had a Kubiak or you had a Kingsbury with that offense? Or I should say, manning that offense. Offensive coordinator, I should say, if that makes sense, right? Because their offensive coordinator is Nick Caley. So you got Burke as defensive coordinator, you got DeMeco Ryans as the head coach, and then you got Nick Caley as the OC. Now, do you want to go through his track record? He was with the Rams under McVay. He was a passing game coordinator and tight ends coach. So, I mean, the McVay tree. But if you bring in the right coordinator, totally different animal. Needs quarterback whisperer. McDaniel doesn't get a head coaching job. Maybe he goes to Houston as an OC. Him and DeMeco connected by Shanahan. Yeah, I can see that too. Kubiak, Kingsbury. Yeah, absolutely. John Harbaugh, just what the New York Football Giants and us fans need. Let's effing go. I said it. I said it. I said it. I said it. It's exactly what the friggin' Giants need. The guy that gets it, that stands up there and says, no, it's not the New York Giants. It's what my father told me, the New York Football Giants. Give him the power. Let him run it. I'm fine. And I will say this. This is not a proclamation. This is not a declaration. This is not even. And I actually tweeted out, the Savior. The Savior has arrived on 16. I didn't say 16W off the Parkway. I didn't say that. But if you want on a Tuesday, Joey B and the Giant faithful out there, I said it in the 4:00 hour. I can give it to you right now as well on a little Tuesday, on a little hot toddy Tuesday edition of On Cue from our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee and Three Brooks Bourbon. I'll give it to you. I'll do it right now. This team next year, they will, I would say by December, they will be a fringe playoff team. I'm not saying they're making the playoffs, and I'm not going to say they're going to win a division. Now, fringe, you can take it for whatever you want. They can be sitting there with 7 wins and be in the mix, be in the hunt. They will be much more competitive. And all you're asking is for the team to learn how to friggin' close games. That's it. That's really it. That's all you can ask for. Close out games. So I already gave you 2 hot toddy takes. I said Harbaugh. I told you Lamar Jackson's getting moved. I think he's quietly going to get shopped. I really do. And I think the other shoe is going to drop in Philadelphia. And I'm not talking about A.J. Brown. I'm not talking about A.J. Brown. The NFC East is the makeup, the complexion of the NFC East is going to be much different next year. It is. I'm telling you right now, all it takes is just someone to come in and just decide enough is enough. We're not doing it this way anymore. We're not. We're not. And that's what you need. That's what you need. You just need hope. You need a shot. You need to have a little faith. Look, anytime on a Sunday, we know in the NFL anything can happen. Quarterbacks can go down. Players can go down. Teams hit a lull. Teams hit a hot streak. Teams hit a cold streak. We do know that as the season wears on, you kind of know who the legit teams are, right? And you also kind of see the teams that are ripe for the picking. It's just the way the NFL has worked over the last, the dawn of time, since they started wearing leather helmets and kicking footballs. You just know. So like this season, it's been a very fluky season. We thought there were going to be 4, 5, 6 coaches fired. What are we at, 10, 9, 10? We thought there were going to be, a couple teams on the outside looking in. Now all of a sudden making a run. Did we see Denver? Did we see New England? Did we see Jacksonville? Did we see Indianapolis with Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold with Seattle? The 49ers with their injuries? The Eagles taking a step back. Like, that's the beauty of the NFL season. Now you get into these conference championship games and you want to create a path of victory for some of these teams. You want them to have hope. Well, for the teams that are on the outside looking in, the bad franchises, your first step, hire the right guy. Hire the right guy. Change the culture. Change the perception. Change the optics. Change the mentality. And I said this in the 4:00 hour for those that missed it. This guy, Harbaugh, is a football lifer. This is, if you guys are just tuning in, the analogy I gave you is, you're sitting there in the fall or in the summertime, and as we know, it gets a little darker late, maybe. So it's like 6, 7 o'clock. You guys are playing on the blacktop with your buddies. You're running. Losers walk. Here we go, shirts and skins, and you hear the whistle. Come in. Clean up. It's dinner time. It's almost bedtime. Harbaugh's like, whistle be damned. I'm going to stay out there. I'm doing sprints. I'm taking foul shots. I'm hitting threes. I'm dribbling up and down. I'm not leaving a football field. I'm hitting the sled. I'm hitting the dummy. Like, this guy is made for this stuff. That's why I wanted him. Yes, maybe there's that great young mind who we haven't seen out there. Maybe the next McVay or Ben Johnson. I will take my shot with this guy. And you're bringing in a head coach that right away can teach you walk different, talk different, act different, play harder, practice harder, hold yourself accountable. We're going to show you how to close out games. We're going to teach you how to win. Harbaugh's that guy. There are a few coaches like that. Other guys just come in and they know how to read the room. They are players, coaches, and sometimes it works. Or they're too loyal to a fault, but yet sometimes it works. Like McDermott can coach. Tomlin can coach. Andy Reid can coach. McVay can coach. Pete Carroll was a great coach. He's no longer that guy. They all brought something very unique to the table. And some of them were masked by playing in poor divisions with great talent. Let's be honest. All those years, and I'm not a big Sean Payton fan. Sean Payton won a lot of games, but he also had some brutal playoff losses in a bad division, right? Harbaugh had to go through the AFC North, tough division. Andy Reid had to go through the NFC East for years. Now, if you want to sit there and say it was a down year or down years when he coached, so be it. But all of a sudden, he jumps to the AFC West, and what happens? He's winning Super Bowls. He's winning divisions. So timing is everything. Bringing in the right guys is everything. Not giving up on players is everything. Like, what are all these teams, these teams right now that are left standing in the NFL? Conference Championship Sunday, the Pats, Denver, the Rams, Seattle. You can sit there and say, aside from the fact you're losing Bo Nix, but it's unfortunate, but they also believe at this moment they all have franchises quarterback. Now, there's different levels of that. Bo Nix and Drake May are young quarterbacks. Denver, I think people were questioning Bo Nix. I think they were looking at Bo Nix and saying, well, is he really that guy? Right? Can Bo Nix really lead us? That's what they were looking at. Kind of a late start, if you will, 25, 26 years of age. Okay, nice season last year. Then all of a sudden, here we go. Offensive line keeps him upright. He's healthy, puts up good numbers. He can be the guy, and you got a veteran head coach in Sean Payton. Then you look at New England, and you bring in a head coach that understands the Patriot way, and you match him with a young quarterback that makes that unbelievable jump. We always talk about year 2, year 3, make the progression. What's the jump? It is remarkable, isn't it? It is remarkable. Only in the NFL. It's the only sport. We don't do it in any other sport. We don't sit there and say, hey, man, watch this pitcher in year number 2. Watch this point guard in year number 2. Watch this goalie in year number 2. Only in the NFL can we say, watch the quarterback in year number 2. The jump Drake May made. 15 touchdowns, 10 picks. 31 touchdowns, 6 picks. It's crazy. It's crazy in the NFL. We consume everything, right? We just gather all the information and we sprout it out as a quarterback, and we, the analytics, the plays, the game slowing down, year number 1 to year number 2. So they have a franchise quarterback. You got a very good head coach in McDonald in Seattle, and you got a franchise quarterback in Sam Darnold, even though it's late in his career. That's all all you need in the NFL is, and I know it's a lot, but if you have a franchise quarterback, you have a shot to win. You have a shot to win, and you guys can define franchise quarterback any way you want. It's subjective. But if you have a guy that you believe can lead, that can be a leader of men, that can command respect and the presence in the huddle and make friggin' plays on the field and, lift up your teammates, you got a franchise quarterback. Now, some of these guys we've talked about, they are unequivocally franchise quarterbacks, but some of them can't win in the clutch. Some of them don't have the clutch team. Some of them are September, October, November, December. And they deserve to be criticized. And for those that are just tuning in, I started the show with that, talking about the dynamic in Buffalo, the dynamic in Baltimore. Think about it. The dynamic in Pittsburgh, even though for years, you had Tomlin and Roethlisberger, and then you had a mixed bag, and then obviously you have Aaron Rodgers. But Baltimore, you go from Flacco to Harbaugh. In Buffalo, it's been McDermott and Allen. Well, Flacco was able to get the job done in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson hasn't. But Lamar Jackson is an MVP caliber. He's a two-time MVP. Okay, so where are we at with Lamar Jackson? Where are we at with Josh Allen? And Joe Burrow, that's another quarterback. And I threw this out on X, and I'll ask you guys, out of those three quarterbacks, realistically, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, who do you believe out of those three, when it's all said and done, will be a Super Bowl winning quarterback? And go by this. The caveat is they're sticking with their current teams. Now, Joe Burrow already got to a Super Bowl. They lost to the Rams. But Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, you got to be looking at these quarterbacks and saying, well, wait a sec. Are these really the guys that can get us over the hump? We just got rid of the coach. There's going to be upheaval. Now, what's the excuse? Josh Allen's stock has to take a hit. You have to stop giving Josh Allen a pass. It's just, you just got to stop. Kevin chimes in, Q, I'm glad Harbaugh kind of addressed the whole power struggle. I think it's overblown. What say you? Yeah, it is. But that's what the New York media is going to do. And the little rat reporters, right? And some of the guys from the mothership, and I know who they are, they want to stir the pot. Let them go. It doesn't matter. Let them come in. You know what? Shop for the groceries, cook the friggin' meal. I'm fine. I'll clean up afterwards. I don't have a problem with that. It's overblown. Who cares? They did it for 100 years, they did it a certain way. They're not doing it because they're making concessions because of a guy like John Harbaugh. That should be applauded. I'm applauding them for that. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. Just get me to friggin' Sunday in September. Get me to October where there's meaningful friggin' football, Kevin, and I'll be happy. Sorry, chimes in. Q, any word on the Raiders? You think that's an appealing landing spot? I don't think it is. I don't. The Raiders would scare me off. That's a dysfunctional franchise. Now, you want to sit there and say, well, hold on a second. It's a good landing spot because you got the number one draft pick and you're going to draft Mendoza. Okay, you can sell me on that, right? But who's going to take that job? Nagy? Webb? Kubiak? Who's going to take that job? To me, I get nervous with the owner. And Tom Brady's going to wield his power. Ultimately, Tom Brady, I think the best candidate for that job is Kubiak. You want to pluck from the Shanahan McVay tree? Here you go. Kubiak is that guy. He runs the style of offense, right? That finished, second or third best in terms of points scored. He's been successful at other stops. I would love to bring him in as an offensive coordinator. That's not going to happen, right? You saw what he did with Minnesota. You saw, he moved around a little bit. I think he was with the Saints. He's 38, turns 39. He's an up-and-comer. Here we go. Ride him in there with Mendoza, and off you go. But the Raiders, I'd be a little weary of that. Marty Q, I'm a big-time Bills fan. I think you're being overcritical of Josh Allen. It's not being overcritical of Josh Allen. How is it overcritical? I said this yesterday. If Josh Allen, if let's forget about Josh Allen for a moment, because now I'm getting annoyed with this shit. I am. I really am. I'm getting annoyed with some of you guys. Like the Bills Mafia, you lost. Like move on. But you have to have a serious conversation regarding your quarterback. If this is Jalen Hurts, if this is Lamar Jackson, if this is Darnold, Jared Goff, guys that we kind of question, even though Jalen Hurts has already won and everyone thinks it's a fluke, right? But we kind of question, can they get over the hump? Can they be that franchise quarterback? Can they be that Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback? Or even some of the other guys, the Trevor Lawrences, the Justin Herberts of the world, right? Then come on, man. Like we're killing these guys. We're absolutely crushing them. When, and I'm a Josh Allen fan, but when did he become Teflon? When did he become? You're talking about an MVP late in the first half that decides for some friggin' reason, I'm going to hold the football like a loaf of friggin' bread and just give the Denver Broncos 3 points. For as much as we laud Josh Allen, Superman, here we go, he came up small. Like you can be a great quarterback, but still come up small. Dan Marino was a great quarterback. Dan Marino is one of the all-time great throwers of the football. Dan Marino would sling it. Dan Marino is a Hall of Famer. He was a brilliant quarterback. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. And Dan Marino hates that people bring that up. And I understand why. You don't want to be remembered for that. He was an unbelievable quarterback that had unbelievable talent. You watch old films, old footage of Marino. Are you kidding me? The guy at 65 can still sling it. You're talking about a quarterback at 22, 23 was throwing for 5,000 yards and 48 friggin' touchdowns. Oh, by the way, let me win the MVP. Dan Marino got to a Super Bowl early in his career. They got waxed by the 49ers, 38-16, and he never got back. Josh Allen hasn't done that. And Josh Allen is no Dan Marino. We criticized Lamar Jackson, September, October, November, Lamar Jackson, and then choke job Lamar Jackson in December. Hell, John Elway dragged bad Denver teams to the playoffs and Super Bowl. And the knock on John Elway was couldn't win the big one. You gave him a running game, and what happens? He wins. The narrative changes, but he still got over the hump. So for as much as we praise Josh Allen, it's Josh Allen. Clark Kent goes into, and I'm guilty of it, goes into the phone booth and turns into Superman. Josh Allen, come playoff times, more times than not, has come up small. He has come up small. And I'm sorry, when you're a quarterback in the NFL, we tag you with wins and losses. And his kryptonite's been Kansas City. And his playoff narrative is unbelievable talent, but also heartbreaking defeat, just like we saw on Sunday. And you're going to tell me he wasn't responsible for that loss? He had a hand in that loss. He did. Like, I'm not going to say that Josh Allen's performance led to Sean McDermott getting fired, but it didn't help. And the Josh Allen backers out there might think I'm totally over the top by that comment, but that's the reality of the NFL. If I'm a head coach and you're my quarterback and we're joined at the hip, as I succeed, you succeed. As you fail, I fail. Now, do I believe McDermott was probably on the hot seat coming into the season? Yeah, I said it in August. It got magnified when we learned that McDermott is basically calling out the GM and the owner for not building the roster. That was the last straw. So Buffalo decides we lost again. This guy ran his mouth. He's ripping the roster. He can't win. He's 8-8 in the playoffs. Sure, won a lot of games during the regular season, but 8-8 in the playoffs. Just like our great quarterback that can't get us over the hump, we're not going to get rid of the franchise quarterback. We're getting rid of the head coach. Everything can be true. Everything can be true. You can't sit there and you're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You're not. But I can tell you right now, if that was Burrow, if that was Herbert, if that was Lamar Jackson, if that was Jared Goff, we would be crucifying these guys today. We would be hammering them. Hammering them. All pro MVP. Guy can't get over the hump. He stinks. He's not a franchise quarterback. If it was Lamar Jackson, you guys would be crucifying him. Because Lamar Jackson is an MVP quarterback September, October, November, December. Lamar Jackson falters in the playoffs. He's just not a playoff winning quarterback, but he's still a great quarterback. Both things can be true until he flips the script. He changes the narrative. He makes a deep run in the playoffs. He takes Baltimore to the Super Bowl. Then people will bitch if they don't win it because they want something to bitch about and whine and complain. But until that time, he's always going to be criticized for his playoff failures. That's just how it works in the NFL. You can win all these MVPs. You can throw for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns. That's great during the regular season. But what the hell difference does it make if you do it in the regular season and you can't do it in the playoffs? All it is window dressing. All it is, man, he was great in 2021, 2025, 1986, 1993, 1998. He put up monster numbers, but they got bounced in the wild card round. They got bounced in the division round. He threw a pick late in the championship game. And Josh Allen is right there. Josh Allen is right there. You know, Josh Allen, you got to win in the playoffs, man. Lamar Jackson, you're 3-5. You got to win in the playoffs. I'm sorry, you got to win in the playoffs. Joe Burrow, you got to win in the playoffs. Justin Herbert, you got to win in the playoffs. Jared Goff, you got to win in the playoffs. Like, you can't say it about Stafford. He's won. He's won. Patrick Mahomes has won. Hell, even Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl and he's Super Bowl MVP. So I don't believe I'm being overly critical. I don't. I think my problem is more of the national media. I believe Josh Allen, there are certain athletes and certain quarterbacks in the NFL that are overly protected. They're overly protected. Like Patrick Mahomes can run around, scramble, and throw across his body, and that's a no-no. But if you listen to the telecast or the broadcast, i.e. Collinsworth, who fawns over Patrick Mahomes, that's an unbelievable play. Only a Patrick Mahomes play can make it. Well, guess what? If Allen or Lamar Jackson or Darnold scrambling, running around, going crazy, throwing against his body, rolling to his right, throwing to his left, makes that play, and it's tipped and it's bounced and it's called for a touchdown, it's a lucky play. Like Allen, to me, is a great quarterback. Josh Allen is a franchise quarterback, but Josh Allen doesn't, he doesn't step up in the biggest of spots. And you can get on me all you want, and you can sit there and say, well, the squib kick, well, the defense lets him down. All you have to do is go by recency bias and go by what we just saw over the weekend. I'm sorry, that loss is tagged to Josh Allen. And what makes it worse, what makes it really worse, is that the Bills have gone to the playoffs 7 times with Josh Allen. 7 times. That's a hell of a run. Winning divisional titles, going to the playoffs 7 times. And Saturday's loss in the divisional round was the 7th time they failed to reach the Super Bowl in this era. Now, why am I being over dramatic, as some might have suggested? Perhaps I am sometimes over the air. Because this time around, Josh Allen, kind of walking to heaven's gate, he didn't have to worry about meeting who? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, or Patrick Mahomes. So we talk about a clean path. I mean, it's like Moses parting the sea for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And he still couldn't get it done. He's got to get hit. He's got to be criticized. Sorry. No, you're not overcritical. I'm glad you're calling Josh Allen out. Josh Allen year was this year, and he blew. I believe it was. I believe the Buffalo Bills window has closed shut. I believe it. I believe the window for Josh Allen and this run with the Bills is closed shut. Lamar get over the hump with a new head coach. Lamar's kryptonite was Harbaugh. Watch him get over the hump. That would be something. I mean, to be fair, though, under Harbaugh and Monken, he had an unbelievable MVP, right? I like Lamar Jackson. I still believe the Baltimore Ravens, and I know you're a Ravens fan. I know you're a diehard Ravens fan, so you're probably not going to like what I'm about to say. I believe they quietly shopped Lamar Jackson. I really believe that. I said it, when we talked about crazy storylines in August. I believe that this offseason, and I know the Raiders are the name right there. I mean, I kind of been insinuating it would have to be a team that no matter what was going to hold the top overall pick. The more I think about it, I think the Ravens give up a king's ransom. I'm sorry, the Raiders give up a king's ransom for Lamar Jackson. And this whole Mendoza to the Raiders, pencil it in. I'm not so sure anymore. Now, the salary cap hit, and I see Sal chiming in right now, calling me friggin' nuts, but I did say it. Go back and you look at past shows. I've said it. I was of the belief the Jets should have went after Lamar Jackson years ago and not Aaron Rodgers. And that's on the channel. I said that on the show. But I know the cap hit. It's over $75 million in 2026. So obviously, unless it's reworked down, right? And it seems to be priority for the Ravens, you're going to have to get it done sooner rather than later. But I'm telling you right now, man, the Raiders are sitting with the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And I think you got a king's ransom, more draft capital. I can see it happening. I can see it happening. So in that situation, what do the Ravens do? You do kind of like a mini rebuild, right? With who? Mendoza. Now, I also believe the Raiders need a little buzz and some traction in that city. They got to bring in a superstar player that excites fans, and I think Lamar Jackson's that guy. I know it's crazy. I know you guys, it's fresh roasted coffee. It's straight black today. There's no hot toddy. I already gave you the hot toddy take. I'm just saying it's a long shot. And I know Lamar Jackson has that gigantic cap hit, but do not put it past anyone. Don't. I'm just saying. Someone forgot to tell Josh Allen he had to go to my. That's correct with Bo Nix. That's just. I feel so bad for Bronco Ball. I feel so bad. No way. Ravens 76, be more 54. Big time Ravens fan. I know. I'm not trying to goose up, brother. I'm not. I'm just saying stranger things have happened in the NFL. I will say this: if Lamar regresses this season, bearing any injuries, I would be open to that conversation. I want to see Lamar win an offensive-minded head coach. All right. So with that being said, who would be, what's your landing spot? Give me a head coach right now for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, who would be the best if you're talking about the Ravens right now, right? You got Lamar Jackson. Let's say, well, go on the premise he's not traded. You got weapons. You got tight end, receiver. You got a Hall of Fame running back. You've got talent, do you not? You've got talent. Now, what happens with the offensive coordinator? Would you be open? Now, hear me out. Would you be open to Brian Daboll as head coach? Would you be open to Jesse Minter as head coach? I don't think Brian Daboll will get hired as head coach with Buffalo. I don't. I don't. But what about with Baltimore? So I'll give you a guy like Brian Daboll. Stefanski's obviously off the market. We know about Atlanta, or Minter. Or what about Mike McDaniel? I mean, is that? Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, that's. I think Kubiak, no to Daboll. Yes to Minter. Clint Kubiak, that's a fit. That's a fit. But I kind of already told you where I think. I think Kubiak. I think the Raiders are going to make a push for Clint Kubiak. I really do. I really do. I think um, he's a bright guy, man. If I'm Baltimore though, I probably want to make a full court press on Kubiak. I really do. I really do. And I would venture to guess too, all eyes will be on that NFC championship. See how that offense kicks off. He's you talk about a hot candidate. It's definitely Kubiak. Um, I just Lamar Jackson. I mean, I have to just my only worry is that Lamar Jackson is still that runner first. I know they made him into a little more of a pocket passer. Look, he's a hell of a quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Maybe I'm nitpicking. I'm just wondering if a guy like Kubiak wants kind of that pure pocket. I think it's one of the reasons that Darnold flourished. Passer. Um, but you can't go wrong with a guy that threw 41 touchdowns. Should have been the MVP last year. McDaniel's OC. McDaniel might have to take an OC job because of how it kind of flamed out with Miami. That's another good point as well. That's a fair point. Sal chimes in. Q, no, no, no. What the hell are you smoking today, brother? Absolutely not. No way the Ravens trade Lamar Jackson. We'll see. Q, did you see the footage of Joe Shane introducing John? Oh, man. That's funny. Poor Joe Shane. Yeah, at this point, listen, I'm very ecstatic, right? By the way, Mike McDaniel for the Browns, he's withdrawing from their head coaching search ahead of scheduled in-person interviews Wednesday. Wow. McDaniel is still a candidate for the Ravens and Raiders head coaching vacancies. He's interviewing for the Chargers offensive coordinator job today, multiple OC offers, and could have a new home soon. Huh, interesting. I would hire Mike McDaniel too. I would. I would. Look, right now, so here's another landing spot. If let me see. If you are, say, Robert Saleh that just took the Titans job, and you got a young quarterback in Cam Ward, is that an appealing spot for a guy like Kubiak? Is that an appealing spot for a guy like McDaniel? Or are we going on this that out of those two, let's say out of those three, Minter, McDaniel, Kubiak, we'll all agree that Kubiak should get a crack first at being a head coach. So maybe we kind of stick him to the side. I think the Titans would be a fascinating opportunity as long as they can figure out a way to fix the offensive line. They had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball as well. But Cam Ward, I don't think you give up on Cam Ward. I just don't. I think that's utterly ridiculous. Anthony Richardson was a reach. I don't think Cam Ward is a reach. I think Cam Ward is a young quarterback that's got some talent, and it's hard for quarterbacks to succeed when you fire the head coach 5 games in your rookie season. You know what's insane? Sam Darnold is only 1 game away from Super Bowl. The first quarterback from 2018 draft consists of Mayfield, Lamar, Josh Rosen, and Josh Allen. That is a great comment. That is a great comment. Now, Josh Rosen, I always thought was going to be a bust. He didn't look the part, didn't sound the part. My gut always felt he was going to be a bust. Mayfield was able to resurrect his career. Obviously, Lamar Jackson MVP, Josh Allen MVP, Sam Darnold. That's a perfect example. So we talk about giving up on these guys way too early. And I mentioned this, Sam Darnold's only 28. He was 20 when he was drafted by the Jets. And here we are. And if you're tuning in and you haven't listened to me over the last several years, I've always been a Darnold fan. I love slinging Sammy Darnold. I would love nothing more than for Sam Darnold to get to the Super Bowl. Now, I would be torn because I picked Bronco Ball to win it all in August. But Darnold, to me, it's the right fit. With Minnesota and O'Connell last year, and he puts up ridiculous numbers, and he wins 14 games. Let me just put that in perspective. Sam Darnold, his first 3 seasons in the NFL, he won a total of 13 games. His next 2, 8 games. So he basically won 30 games. He's won 28 in 2 seasons. I think he's the only quarterback in NFL history to win 14 games in back-to-back seasons with 2 different teams. And his numbers are off the chart. They really are. It's a great fit. Like he's in a perfect system. He was in a perfect system taking over when McCarthy goes down to Minnesota. Flourish took advantage of it, cashed in with Seattle, and now he's got all these weapons. Yeah, they lost a running back. That's a big blow, but he's distributing the football. He's putting up good numbers. He's not being careless with the football. And to the commenter's point, he's 1 win away from getting in the Super Bowl. Like, who would have thought that? Who would have thought that, the kid getting drafted 2018 has no idea what the hell he's doing. He's running around for his life with the Jets and the injuries and the seeing ghost and the mono. And now he's 1 win away. Because again, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, they were both running scout teams for Carolina. And then Baker cashes in with Tampa, and now Darnold's been able to cash in with Minnesota and, of course, Seattle. And he also took advantage of an opportunity. And that's the other thing. Some of these guys, they don't take advantage of a second shot, a second chance. And Darnold's been able to do that. He's resurrected his career, and everyone was going to cast him off. Baker Mayfield resurrected his career. I think Mac Jones has salvaged his career. Now, you can debate and argue if you're going to give Mac Jones $25-30 million a year, but there will be a team that looked at Mac Jones's little cup of coffee with the 49ers when Brock Purdy went down and said, okay, we're going to pay this guy $25-30 million. Maybe it's Arizona. You never know. But I just think Darnold, showed a grit, a toughness, and he landed in good spots. And if you go back, those Jet teams were just debacles, man. They were bad. I mean, remember their offensive coordinator, Jeremy Bates, Todd Bowles. They were bad. They were Adam Gase. Horrible. Then they went to Robert Saleh, and by that time, Darnold was jettisoned. Product of coaching, first-round quarterback talent putting together. Yeah, and it only took a decade. That's called a late bloomer. You look at all these quarterbacks right now, these young guys, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix. I can't really put Herbert in there or Trevor Lawrence anymore. Jaden Daniels, right? I can't. Jackson Dart, cup of coffee is rookie. But point is, I bet you somewhere along the line during the course of a season, those fan bases were wondering if they had the right quarterback. They were wondering, is this guy, is he the answer? And I think for Cam Ward, you're asking a lot of a kid that loses his head coach 4 or 5 games into his rookie season. That's a lot of pressure on the kid. It really is. And that franchise has been cheap. They haven't really developed players, right? They try to spend, and they've had some misses. But I believe that you also have to have patience with this kid. Now, that's just my opinion. I think you have to have a little patience with him. Look, perfect example, Bryce Young. We were giving up on Bryce Young. Everyone was writing off Bryce Young. Everyone was. Bryce Young's not a quarterback. He's not a starting quarterback. And Bryce Young looks like he's the real deal. He's a franchise quarterback. He's going to have growing pains. He really is. But now, if you go down to Indianapolis and you ask them what they think of Anthony Richardson, they're past Anthony Richardson. Do you know how many quarterbacks the Colts want? Daniel Jones, Phillip Rivers, Leonard, right? Richardson. I think they had one more on the roster, but they went through 4 quarterbacks this year. I don't believe Anthony Richardson. I believe he was a reach, but he's only 23. Remember the Trey Lances, the Justin Fields? Reaches. They haven't worked out. They're journeyman quarterback. Man, I'll tell you, it's tough. If you don't get a franchise quarterback, if you miss on a franchise quarterback, it's going to cost the head coach, the GM, their job. And I don't know if it's lack of patience. I don't know if they just don't develop these guys. I don't know if there's too much pressure on them. It's the weight of the world. I don't know. Some of them flourish, and other times some of them don't. And then they become retreads or they're out of the NFL. All right, 5:48, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, a couple minutes before we get out of here. Let me see, get some more comments in here. Glenn Q, what'd you think of the national championship game? Great story, Indiana. Good game. Wasn't an all-time classic. I started the show off talking a little bit about that. But listen, it's a wonderful run by Indiana. It was a good game, as I said, and you get to cast off making the biggest play, the kid that was spurned by Miami, making the biggest play of his career with the pick late. It's an unlikely championship run. I mean, it's you want to say unassuming. BYU wins in an 84. No one thought they were a juggernaut, right? Indiana, not a sexy team, but man, it's a hell of a season. It is a classic, one for the ages, one for the book season for Indiana. You get the quarterback winning the Heisman, you go undefeated, and you win it all. And Miami, the U is back. The U is back, and I'm happy to see that. I really am. College football is good when the U is good. Now, do we kind of get a little when we start to see Mike Orvin all over the place? Yeah, but it is what it is. I don't think he was as souped up last night. Q, you had me dying when you were talking about the porn star. Listen, all I'm saying is that camera guy might be revising his resume. I mean, you kind of knew what you were doing last night, did you not? Let's be honest. Little bit. You kind of knew exactly where you were firing off that camera. You and I both know that. Malik Willis, franchise quarterback. I hope he gets the opportunity. Potential is there. I totally forgot about Malik Willis. Consigliere took it home. Google him. Oh, Jelly, you broke my heart. As Mr. Vidi's consigliere, what consigliere? Yes, he did. Yes, we will have to Google him. Absolutely, yes, he took it home. It's a great run. Great run. 100%. Signeri. Fantastic movie. Oh, speaking of which, I have to. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate you chiming in. Be well. I have to tell you guys Did you see the new? It's on Netflix. I'm gonna watch it later. The Rip. You got Matt Damon. You got Ben Affleck. Come on, what are we doing here, right? And I still got to go through Homeland, and I'm almost done. So I'm looking forward to that. John chimes in. Q, did you see that Jimmy Buckets went down? Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think he's done for the season, right? Towards ACL. Jimmy Butler. Knicks got blown out. Oh man, Knicks got embarrassed. Absolutely friggin' embarrassed. There's no effort. None. Like zero effort. I just hollow numbers for Towns, 22 and 18. Yeah, I'm not happy with the Knicks right now. They got some major friggin' issues, man. And I'm telling you, they're soft. They're soft. Four straight and bad losses to the Warriors, to the Kings, to the Suns. Where's their defense? Where's their guts? Where's their heart? They're soft. They're soft right now. They had the great start and now they fizzled. And all of a sudden, Boston now, that is still a banged up team, they're 2 up in the Atlantic. Yeah, I'm not happy with the oh no, don't tell me that. No, was it really? Oh, don't ruin it for me, please. Please don't tell me. I'm gonna watch it anyway. Wait, it was bad. Oh man, was it as bad as the Callings and Manifest, or as you like to say, the Spanish bank robbers? Oh man, I hate when they hype up. Watch Homeland. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Watch Homeland. All right, got to start wrapping it up. Good stuff from you guys. Don't forget, show will be on demand. Check out Odyssey and Coastal Sports Digital Network, 1029 FM The Game. What do we got here? Sorry about that. Tomorrow we will be back in the saddle on a Woosah Wednesday. I'm gonna watch it even if it's bad. I'm sorry, man. I will give you a full scouting report on the movie Manana. But we'll be back in the saddle tomorrow. We'll start to get in conference championships. I want to, start to get in a little hot stove baseball, a little NBA too. We got 2 hours to play with on a Woosah Wednesday. Check the notifications for what time we'll be fired off as well. As always, you guys have a wonderful Sports Tuesday. Don't forget, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with T3 Brooks Bourbon. Play it again, sports. And if you follow along on the YouTube channel, you can catch us on the Odyssey app Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. Also on X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic, at Rich Q on X and IG, and of course, TikTok and the YouTube channel. If you like to comment, subscribe, share, comment, stick around for 2 hours Monday to Friday. You guys are the best. I always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Have a good Sports Tuesday. We will be back in the saddle mañana on a Woosah Wednesday edition of On Q. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.